It is our pleasure to welcome former BYU Cougar, former Ricks College Viking, former Orem Golden Tiger, and the man who caught one of the most celebrated touchdowns in BYU history, also the guitar player for the band Tiger Frog, and a middle school teacher, the great Jonny Harline, live from Las Vegas. Jonny, welcome to the Wise Guys. We've been looking forward to this visit. It's good to have you.
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to it, too.
John, look at all these, like right off, he's got the guitar background going right there, which I love.
Best view in the house.
So John, you need to know, we've had some pretty good instrumentalists and musicians on the show already. I don't know if you know, we had Elaine Bradley a couple weeks ago, who's the drummer for the Neon Trees. She started out as a guitarist. But when she joined Neon Trees, they already had a guitarist, and she's like, we already have that, but I'm good on the drums too, so why don't I play drums? And then the rest is history. She's one of the greatest female drummers in the history of rock and roll, right? So she was on a little bit ago.
Right on.
We had Brandon Campbell, the bass guitar player
for Neon Trees was on.
Marie Osmond popped in. Yeah.
So you're you got a lot to live up to on the musical side, and I know that you're a phenomenal guitar player. So you're right up there with those guys.
Oh, well, I appreciate the confidence. I mean, they're professional, I'm just part-time right now, but I've been playing a long time, and it's always been a big hobby. I get home, from school, high school, junior high, and I'd be down playing guitar for, as long as everyone would let me, a couple hours, 2-3 hours. So
what is Tiger like? So what is the genre of music that Tiger Frog plays? Like, what do you have one type that you kind of focus on?
I would call it just rock and roll. I like, I'm a big fan of the straight ahead blues rock and roll.
Oh, nice.
So things, like Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, and all that stuff I love. I guess Led Zeppelin's not always, but, just kind of that foundational classic rock type stuff is great. And then before that, I love a lot of the blues guys. Then slightly more modern. In my head, it's kind of modern, because these are bands that were out when I was in high school, which is a while ago now. But, stuff that has a little more funk to it, like, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Rage Against the Machine, great guitar riffs and just have a great groove to them. So I kind of think of what I try to do with writing songs now with the band is I kind of like the idea of having really catchy and groovy riffs and beats, but then have the guitar lead type stuff of, something like Slash or, Aerosmith, like Joe Perry and stuff, and kind of have that conglomeration. So.
Yeah, impressive. Yeah. What similarities have you noticed between performing on stage and performing on the football field in front of thousands and thousands?
Well, part of it would be in the focus of just like, all right, well, I'm going to get in front of a bunch of people and do something where if I mess up too bad, it's going to be kind of embarrassing. But, on the other hand, if you do awesome, it's going to be really cool. So you hope for the best, and you just kind of get prepared to, do what, you're going to do what you prepared for, right? So it's like you practice, and it's like you got to have confidence in your practice. A big difference would be in music, you're kind of like wanting to engage more with at least in like the performance, you want to engage with the crowd a little bit more. Whereas in sports, at least for me, and in football, I guess you don't do it as much, like as in basketball, the crowd's right there, you may act a little bit more, but for me, always like, I'm not going to worry too much about the crowd, just kind of block it out and focus on my job. But, with performing in music, you kind of invite them in, and it's all kind of a more, communal type experience with the performers as well as the audience.
You've got these 3 avenues where you've gained all this experience and learning over your lifetime. You've got your academics, as you studied all the way up through. Then you had your football, which is certainly part of your learning experience, and music has been part of your learning experience and part of your life. Those 3 things together, how did that shape you and help you now as you're teaching 6th through 8th graders at Challenger School in Las Vegas? Do those 3 things help, and do they apply as you're spending time and helping those young folks learn?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they, I mean, it's almost to the point. Well, first of all, I don't like tell a lot of sports stories just, in my normal everyday life with my family and, hanging out with friends. I'm like, one time we were playing Utah or something like that. But with my kids in class, I'm telling them stories, to the point where it's like I start a story and I can kind of see someone go like, oh, here we go again. But I try to make it clear to them. I'm like, look, like, I'm not telling you this to try to like make you think I'm cool, but it's like there are lessons that I've learned that that are so valuable. And as a teacher, you're like, I want to help you, take some of these things and maybe you can apply it in your life. Maybe it's going to help you out. It's going to be a good idea that you'll find some value in. And so, every day there's something that comes up that comes to mind, whether it's from high school, BYU, trying to move upwards in the NFL a little bit more. So I share it all, like successes, failures, and everything in between. Anything where there's a good lesson, I'm trying to help them kind of take those and hopefully be able to apply them a little bit.
So what's more nerve-wracking, a last-second touchdown play, the first song of a concert, or dealing with those kids on a Monday morning?
Oh, the kids are easy by now. I've been doing it in a while, but probably the biggest crowds I've had would be in the football game. So that's what you got to get up for the most, I would say, out of all of them. Or at least there's the most nerves to have to deal with. So,
hey, one of our followers, Les Namanga, who, by the way, is a phenomenal artist based down in Santa Fe, New Mexico. A lot of Native American art and pottery. His family it's just amazing. They have an art empire down there and studios down in Santa Fe. He's asking a question here, and he says, hey, Johnny, do I see a Zach Wild Les Paul there? Is on the wall?
Yes.
He's asked. Oh,
let me grab it.
Oh my goodness. So from an artist, right, who has world-renowned art, he recognized as an instrument that is a piece of art on the wall, and I think that's cool that Les brought that up.
Okay, yeah, and that's awesome because it is, but I painted some on it as well. So originally, this was all this green area was is kind of a off-white. I think I did this during the pandemic, so I had a little extra time. And I was like, I kind of want to customize this. I mean, it's a Zach Wild Epiphone custom Les Paul, and which is really cool. But, I feel like I kind of moved on in my playing enough to be like, okay, I don't want to have it like be somebody else's guitar. Like I kind of want to make it, customize it my own a little bit. So I painted in here green. So the black stayed. I painted in here green. And then a friend who was playing drums with us at the time, he had this kind of pattern that I keep pointing to the bottom where you can't see, but he had this kind of pattern he came up with. It's kind of similar to the logo we have on the album. But it's kind of this continuous pattern that goes around. I don't even see it.
Oh yeah.
That is like amazing work. Hey, and our resident artist who's on the show with us, his comment was beautiful work. So that's from somebody that knows
beautiful
art
work.
Thank you.
and says that's beautiful work. So that's pretty cool. If you're ever Johnny, if you're ever in Santa Fe, you need to stop by and see Les. He'll show you some amazing artwork too. That'd be fun to have him paint a guitar.
Oh,
that would
yeah.
be really, really cool.
Oh, awesome.
Former BYU Hall of Fame tight end Jonny Harline on the Wise Guys. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Wise Guys around the world. Before we talk about that iconic touchdown catch from John Beck to beat Utah in 2006, let's first discuss the catch that is grossly overlooked, the one-handed grab earlier in the game with Utah defender Eric Weddle all over you. What happened on that play?
Oh, super proud of that play. Because it's again all pro, and Eric Weddle. Going against him, I remember he was really the only guy that was trying to cover me, and a lot of times successfully without just like the holding. I look today at how they call at the line of scrimmage and beyond. It's like, man, I was getting held for what feels like all of my routes the entire time, and anything that was man to man, it's like somebody had a hold of my jersey, the whole time, like what I think would be pretty obvious holding calls. And I learned during my junior year, I was like, okay, well, I just have to kind of treat it like they're not going to call it, so I've got to win anyway, right? But Eric Weddle, never. It's just like, and it was funny because like when he would guard me, I remember that I thought I was away from him because no one's grabbing me, and then like I'd go into my break, and a lot of times he would be right there. So very challenging player to go against there. And on that route, we just ran the fade, and we'd had a lot of success with it. And my whole going back to high school, junior high, it's like I always had a pretty high percentage on those fade routes, converting those to touchdowns. And that was a tough, I made a good play on it. There's a little bit of luck in that the tip got, because I jumped up with the one hand. And I kind of consider like, if you don't catch it solid on the first touch, it's like, who knows what's going to happen from there. But luckily I was able to tip it enough to where I could grab it with the two hands and secure it. And my butt hit in the end zone just before I slid out of bounds. I remember they reviewed it. And so everyone's kind of looking at it in the stadium. But I was glad to get that one. And
was that your greatest catch?
I mean, it's gotta be, I guess.
I mean, the most difficult.
The degree of difficulty. Hey, people always ask me, hey, you've done 1,000 games in your career. What's the best one-on-one matchup you've ever been a part of on the broadcast? And that's your matchup with Eric in that game, Eric Weddle, is one that I always come back to. I'm like, hey, Jimmer and going head to head with Kawhi. I called a couple of San Diego State BYU games. I'm like, those were epic, right? I'm like, but man, when Johnny and Eric, because Utah in that game just decided that Eric was covering you man all over the field, right? They moved him around with you. And so
part of the time, yeah.
And so
I think there were 4 guys that lined up on me.
Yeah.
Three of them in the NFL for a long time.
It seemed like to me every time there was this is Jonny Harline time. This is third. This is Johnny. Eric ended up being impressed coverage on you right there. Did you have an idea? I mean, that secondary was ridiculous for Utah. And Eric ends up being a Pro Bowler for so many years and a legend. Did you have any idea of how big that matchup was going to be and how good those guys that were playing against you were going to end up being?
We had some sense. Utah was one of the few teams that did play us man to man that year, pretty consistently. And the year before, that's one of the games where I kind of learned the lesson of like, okay, there's no holding calls that you're going to get. So it's like, get their hands off you. And, I tried to apply that from like play one. And, so it was a tough matchup and part of that would be because, we were not that used to playing against that man press coverage. I mean, we did in practice. We had one-on-ones in practice all the time. So it's, so it's not like we never did it, but that's not what we saw a lot in games. So we had to get out there and win those matchups. And I think it was Sean Smith. I mean, I think he was still fairly young at Utah, but he was a great player. McCain, ended up playing a long time, and Weddle as well. I don't think at the time I realized that they were such high caliber players. Playing against them, they were very good. I don't think like going into the game that I was like, oh man, these are like, NFL guys, but definitely had to step up and just, make some plays happen. And it worked out.
In the end, the play that worked out the best was the last play. John Beck called it, A split 59 when you guys were here on BYU Sports Nation. I think that was the call. So what was supposed to happen on that play, and then what did you do to make the play happen?
I'm lined up on the right. We had our trips to the left, and they had kind of a crossing concept going on. And probably someone heading out to the flat. I don't remember all the parts of it, but I think John kind of had it in his head from the year before when we didn't score in overtime, to tie up or win the game at the end. And I think he had in his head that it's like, unless I have a sure thing, I'm not throwing it. And so I was out to the right, and they did put, so the play before that, they had tried the fade again, and McCain defended it well on me, and we couldn't convert that one, but we still had a few seconds to go. But so it was the same play call twice in a row, I'm pretty sure. But either way, I had the same route. But that second time they put Weddle over with McCain on me, so I was kind of double covered. So I was like, we're not going to throw that. And yeah, they dropped almost everybody, which kind of gave John all that time. And so the way I always think of it and describe it is like, you flow with the quarterback. Once the play's over, after like 2 seconds, everyone's run their routes. And so you're just in backyard football at that point. You're just trying to find an open spot. And in scramble drill, you're supposed to flow with the quarterback. So he rolls out to the left. I flow over there. And when he starts rolling back, I was about to start going. And then I realized like everybody's behind me, or in front of me, I should say.
Yeah.
But like I got past everyone. I started flowing, and I'm like, well, if I don't know if he sees me over here, but if he does, then I'm going to be wide open. And so, yeah, I didn't know that he had seen me until he basically chucked the ball over. When he was describing the play, you could kind of see that he points out to the spot where he saw me, like he turns his head just a little bit, and you kind of see that. And then at that last moment, just falls down and throws it. And was lucky enough to be there and make the catch. Had slide in at the last minute. I think I'm trying to remember, from my perspective, kind of misjudging the ball for a split second, like it was going to make it all the way to me, and then realizing, oh, it's up there. I got to kind of slide in and go get it. So, but I guess that's part of what made it extra dramatic. So memorable.
When you make the catch, and recognize that that's the game winner, what's that feel like? And then what happens over the next 30 seconds?
It's so weird because it's so different for me watching a game than playing in a game. The moment to me, like how, like the kind of the historic nature of the play, I'm not thinking about that at all as a player. Like I've said before, like before that last drive, in the interview with John a couple weeks ago, he was like, oh man, I don't know if it was in the interview, maybe it was after we were talking about it. And he was like, I knew we were not going off that field till we had won. And maybe as a quarterback, like he sees it that way. But for me, it's like, I don't have that much control. And so I remember thinking like, oh, part of my brain was like, we're probably going to lose. And then part of my brain's like, all right, well, here's what I can do. I can go out and I can run my route. And if he throws the ball to me, I'm going to catch it. Yeah. And that's it. Don't worry about anything else. And I think that served me pretty well throughout my career in, the mental side of the game and learning to kind of not focus so much on that. So anyway, to get back to your question, to me, I don't think I was probably as excited as the fans were when I caught it. I caught it. I knew the moment, the game was over. I'm like, this is it. We got these guys. So I pop up, I got my arms up. I'm excited. But it wasn't until like the next day they had the replay on and we were watching it. And I was like, I got so nervous, and I was just thinking like, man, what if I hadn't caught it? Like that would have been a serious failure moment there. But okay, so then I catch it. John gets lifted up on everyone's shoulders. I get dogpiled on, which seems like it would be fun, but like I was getting claustrophobic. I remember I was like, get off. yeah, so I guess they had to clear everybody back off the field because we had to kneel it down for the extra point. You have to do the extra point in college, so it was kind of chaotic there at the end. And I remember the dog pile, and I feel like I was going to black. I think maybe Ray Fanga like jumped on the pile, but went flying over the top of it, and I was like, oh, thank goodness when I saw the replay of it.
Ray is a big man, but I told Dave to remind me. And I don't know if you've ever heard this story, Johnny, but Frank Dolce, who's a good friend, played quarterback at U and was on their broadcast team for years. On the radio broadcast team, he's the color guy. The next year, they fly up, and I can't remember if it's their opener or if it's their road opener, but they're playing up at Oregon.
Right.
And they fly in a downpour rainstorm, and they land at like the executive airport in Eugene. And the plane's taxiing, and everybody looks out, and they're like, look at that, you guys. There's like, what fans we have. These two dudes are standing out here with a poster in the middle of a rainstorm, all bundled up in their slickers and everything. How cool is that? And Frank says that they swing around, they're getting closer and closer and closer. And he looks out the window, and he's like, oh, no. It's two BYU fans, and it says Harline is still open on the side. And that welcomed them on the road.
I hadn't heard that one.
And I'm just like, oh, man, I want to know who those guys are. If you're listening tonight and you're those two guys, I want to know who you are, because I think that is epic and beyond awesome. So
I love it. My feelings softened, kind of softened over the years since playing. But I remember like when that game was over, I mean, it was there was no love lost between those teams. It was pretty personal. And we did not like each other. I had people in my face most of the game, and the crowd's there, just this sea of red and like negative energy towards us. And so it was just like, so most sad. I mean, that's what you dream about, right? Maybe a lot of people dream about it in your home stadium. As a competitor, like in my nature as a player, I love playing on the road. So I never buy into like this whole like home field, home court advantage stuff. Like I love going to play on the road, and like the fans are against you and you're just like stick it to them. So I love that they headed up there. And
when you
that awesome.
That is when you caught that ball, there's such an emotional shift in the stadium, and from most of the crowd thought they were going to win, and then all of a sudden the smaller crowd ended up winning. But what did it sound like when you made the catch? What do you remember hearing?
It got a lot quieter.
Just insta quiet?
My teammates were yelling, and that, and then there's like the BYU section. They're on the other side of the field. So, but I mean, most of the stadium just got super quiet.
So Johnny, I was down on the field. I was doing sideline for that game in the other end zone, watching from behind. And when John pivoted to throw it back to you, I remember thinking, is there somebody over there? And then I saw you over there, and the ball was in the air. Now I'm watching the ball from back there. I have to interview the winning coach. So if you catch it, I'm interviewing Bronco. If you drop it, I'm interviewing Kyle. I don't even know who I'm interviewing yet. But the thing that I remember is it felt like to me the ball was in the air forever. I was like, oh my. I remember thinking in my head, for Pete's sakes, can that thing get there? And I want to know if it felt like that to you. To me, just watching with no control over it, it felt like it took forever. Did it just seem like a normal pass to you, or was it in slow motion?
Again, in like my player's mindset, I had to look at it like it's just another ball, So I was real just focused on like, all right, just catch. Here comes the football. You're going to catch it just like you've done thousands of times. Look it all the way in as you've done thousands of times. And like, I'm pretty sure on the picture, I don't know, maybe the picture shows that I did not look it in all the way. I think my eyes might still be here when the ball hit my chest on one of those pictures. Usually I want to have them down here. But I don't know that the ball took longer. I was just excited. Like I knew I was going to get it. I knew that we were going to win. And, that battle that we've been having, with those guys, that we got them. And so, to me, I I really think I just kind of saw it as a normal ball.
All right, here's a quiz question for you. If the 5 biggest last-second touchdown passes in school history included Jim McMahon to Clay Brown to beat SMU in 1980, Eddie Stinnett's touchdown to Steve Young to beat Missouri in 83.
Quarterback throwback.
With 23 seconds left.
Throwback to the quarterback.
Max Hall's overtime touchdown to Andrew George to beat the Utes in 2009. Tanner Mangum's Hail Mary to Mitch Matthews to beat Nebraska in 2015. Or John's pass to you to beat the Utes in 2006. Where would you rank your catch among that group?
Oh, goodness. I mean, mine wasn't as difficult as some of those. I mean, the Hail Marys they're harder, like you're in a crowd.
Clay
like,
Brown's catch, degree of difficulty.
The difficulty of mine is kind of what, what people ask me. I was like, were you afraid you're going to drop it? Because it's like almost too easy.
Yeah.
But
you got to factor in meaningfulness.
Yeah, and I think for the purpose of the quiz, let's focus on the meaningfulness of the play. The play itself. Is it the biggest of those 5 plays? Is it in the middle? Because I think Clay's is probably the degree of difficulty is the most. It was over his head and 5 guys on him, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I was either not born or really young in a lot of them. And, they still obviously great plays. I think with the, the one that I caught, we had lost 4 years. I was on my mission for a couple of them, so I maybe didn't feel it as heavily, but, I think for a lot of people, like maybe, like I said before, the slide in at the very end makes it a little more dramatic, especially if you're watching on TV or if like you don't see me, if you're watching live, it's like, it's so sudden, right?
Yeah.
That you see that it happened. And, I think BYU, like, everyone had wanted us to win that game so badly, and it was such a huge, monkey off your back type situation. So I don't know. I mean, for me personally, I got to put mine up there the highest.
Yep. I'm Johnny.
It's obviously going to mean the most to me, but the other plays are, of course,
you got to do it. You got to take credit for it. You got to have it your number one.
Yeah, and that's a mix. That's a tough quiz question right there.
That's a hard one.
But to do it at Rice Eccles and the way it happened. And the fact that we're still talking about it in 2006. And we talk about the other ones as well, but not like this one.
People still have the catchphrase, Harline's still open.
Harline's still open.
You still hear it.
No one ever says Young's still open. Yeah. They don't say Matthews is still open.
They do say 4th and 19. They'll say that on Austin's catch. But I'm with you. Hey, when people ask me the greatest team in BYU history, it's like, hey, it's the one I played on. It's 84. I don't care how good 96 was.
You were on 83. They were pretty good.
We were good too, but 84, we won the national championship. That's the best team ever. Nobody can question that, right? You got to choose your team. You got to choose your play. So I'm with you, man.
Jonny Harline on the Wise
I would
Guys.
choose my team too.
Yep.
Yeah, as you should. All-American tight end, caught 121 passes for 1,788 yards, 17 touchdowns, all in just 2 seasons at BYU, 2005 and 2006. A couple of memories we want to go down the lane with you on. November 18th, 2006, BYU, New Mexico. You take a touchdown pass 71 yards to the end zone. Is that the longest touchdown of your career? And what were you thinking? Were you thinking, my gosh, how long does it take to run 71 yards for a touchdown?
Oh, man, that was like lightning. I was right there. No. I'm sure I had, not sure, but I think I had maybe 1 or 2 longer in high school. But yeah, definitely in college, that was the longest one. I was excited about that. The safety thought he had an angle on the big, slow tight end, and I was right past.
That's the best outrun of safety.
And, so I was excited to get a long one, show a little bit of speed there.
How about December 18th, 2006? Same year, a month later, you catch 9 passes for a Las Vegas Bowl record, 181 yards, a touchdown, 38-8 route of 21st ranked Oregon. And Dave and I talk about this all the time. And we were down there. A lot of chatter from the Ducks in the weeks leading up to that bowl game. kind of putting BYU down, how good did it feel to go out and just pound Oregon in that game and have such a phenomenal contribution?
Yeah, so gratifying as a team. And, I was happy, you're always happy when you get to contribute a lot. Everyone contributes, right? But, when you get to do kind of the fun stuff of catching passes, score a touchdown here and there, it's like that makes it extra special for sure. And, it's like we hear some of the chatter about it. Like I said, like I generally did a pretty good job of just like focus, like, well, here's my job and here's what I got to do. It doesn't matter really what anybody says. It's like you get out on the field and you got to guard me, and here's, I got to run my routes, and we'll see what happens out there. I look at those two games. I mean, that's the finish of my college career, and it's like I couldn't be more lucky or grateful that it turned out that way. To have just my two best games I've ever played at the end of my career. And not just that I played well, but they were also, as we were kind of saying, kind of very meaningful games too, exciting victories. And so, man, I always just look back at especially those two games and just like, man, that just couldn't have gone better. You
were the number one tight end in college football that year, All-American. You went undrafted, a short stint as a free agent with the Colts, and then it was over. Why didn't it work out for you in the NFL? It's the mysterious of what you had and finished, and it just seemed like it would just be tailor-made for you.
No, I mean, definitely could have worked out better. I mean, and what I learned in these are some of the lessons that I pass on to students all the time, is like some of the things that I learned as I tried to continue moving up. I mean, the way that I look at it is the main thing that impeded me was tearing my Achilles, in the off season.
Yeah.
I wasn't under contract with anyone. I worked out and did my physical therapy, and I got back. I did well I went back to the BYU's pro day, and I put up like equal numbers as when I came out, but nothing amounted from it. So ultimately, like if that hadn't happened, I feel pretty confident that I would have been able to continue. I know that like I was the type of player who could play in the NFL, and with a couple things here and there, like a couple little lessons, had I learned slightly sooner, a couple little things going this way or that way for me, it's like anybody who's in the NFL, it's like the difference between the greatest players and the lowest players, it's like just the tiniest things, although I don't know, maybe the real all pro Hall of Fame type players, I mean, they are kind of that next level up, but you never know who those guys are going to be, until you kind of see it happen. But for me, I look back on that and it's like there were several things that I couldn't necessarily control my Achilles tendon tearing. I could have controlled other things as far as I think one thing I didn't do that I was good at in college was not just focusing on the present. I remember going into camp and everything, it's like there's so much on the line, and I think in my mindset I was worried a little bit more about like, okay, like I got to make the team, like when are the cuts coming up and stuff like that, without like focusing on like, hey, I'm here and this is going to be an awesome practice. I'm going to do everything I can, every route as fast as I can. And if I look back, I'm like, I was giving good effort, but I think my focus could have been greater. So little lessons I could have learned earlier as a young guy. Some luck going my way with not getting injured have been probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
But I take responsibility for as much as I can and try to learn as much as I can from like, why didn't it work out? And anyway, rambling a little bit.
No, that's a great lesson, especially for everybody, for all of us. And that is be in the present, play every play, like, first of all, enjoy it, but focus on every play, and in the long term, things work themselves out, right? So you focus on and being in the present, and then the long term works out from that. And it's hard. Back in those days, I'm not sure surgical technique, and that's not that long ago, but they're not as good at fixing things as they were. And so anybody that's hurt, they always have a little bit of a tainted eye. You almost have to be better, because you've got that baggage of an injury. And Kyle Van Noy told us a great story a few weeks ago, Johnny, about timing and being in the right place at the right time. And he was in Detroit and was absolutely miserable. And the coach told him, "You're a GM draft pick. We didn't even want you here." And he's like, "I'm not going to last here at all." And then he ends up getting traded to the Patriots. And Bill Belichick pulls him and says, "Man, I always get my guys. I wanted you. You're my guy." Put him in the starting lineup. And then he flourished, right? And so sometimes it's being in the right situation. Had Kyle stayed with Detroit any longer, who knows what would have happened to Kyle. But he ends up going to the Patriots where they instill confidence and believe in him, and then he ends up having this great career. And some people don't realize what you just said, Johnny, is there's this really small gap between great players and just good players, and there's an even smaller gap between the guys that are right on the borderline and getting in and the guys that make it. And a lot of that is timing and a couple of things that Johnny's mentioned. So, hey, anybody that even gets the smell of it is phenomenal in my book. So, because it's amazing. Now, we just saw 3 Cougars go in this year's draft, which is really cool. And then 2 went last year. You had Zach Wilson and Brady Christensen that go the year before that. So does that help BYU's street cred with having these guys 3 straight years draft picks as they're out recruiting and trying to get transfer portal players? Does that mean much to players that they're trying to get to come here to play in the program?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you can kind of show, what guy doesn't want to go play in the NFL? If you're going to play in college and you love the opportunity to try to continue moving on up. Yeah, I think so. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I heard that 2 of those guys were Orem High guys.
There you go.
Well. You were not mistaken.
Yeah, hey,
there's a lot of Tigers all over the place.
2 Tigers.
There's 2 Tigers on this show tonight.
That's right. You too. I'm sorry. I'm just an Elmira Free Academy, New York kid. Sorry.
Jonny Harline inducted into the BYU Hall of Fame in 2018. Long before that, he was a basketball star at Orem High School, just up the road from here. Isaac Rex played basketball too back in his day, and now as his foot is just about back to where it was before the break against USC a couple of years ago. What do you expect from Isaac in the Big 12 this fall?
I think more of the same. He's been doing a great job catching touchdowns, getting open, blocking. He's more of the traditional tight end. I came in as a tweener. I would play wide receiver in high school. I was skinnier, but he's that real true tight end. And man, I don't see any reason why he couldn't have a phenomenal year. Like I said, he steps up and makes the catches in the red zone, gets a lot of touchdowns, and why not keep continuing?
You talk about those. You remember 2 years ago, he'd roam the back of that end zone, and they'd throw a lob up to him and let it be a jump ball. You and Dave were just talking about the fact that you were a really good high school basketball player. Isaac was a really good high school basketball player. Rebounding skills, all of that. Have a role in a tight end being good, be able to go up and high point the ball and take it away. What would you say to? It seems like in today, Johnny, people are going, no, you need to focus on one sport. You need to focus on one sport. Yeah, here we're talking about you and Isaac, both 2-sport athletes. You were a 3-sport athlete. Didn't you run track or do something else, or did you just do the 2?
I went to one track meet and they told me, hey, why don't you try running the 400?
Oh, forget that.
And I ran the 400. That was the last time I ran track.
Yeah, forget that. That was a wrong decision by them to even make you try to do that. But multi-sport athletes, and we still see them thriving. Yeah. What would you say to young players? Is it better for them to get more experiences in multiple sports, or should they be focusing?
I don't think there's any question at all that they should be playing multiple sports, as especially as young kids. I played everything: soccer, baseball, basketball, football. Once I got into high school, it was just basketball and football. So you're specializing a little bit more there. I don't think there's any justification. I don't think there's any real reason why a coach would need to tell a kid hey, you've got to commit to this one team year round, and that's going to be your only sport. I think from what it seems to me, there's evidence that suggests that, they're not as well-rounded, not just like in their skills, but like their muscles and structure kind of suffer from like the same thing and not getting a lot of different types of work. So I don't see any reason other than like, it seems to me fairly selfish on the part of youth coaches to try to tell a kid that they shouldn't be doing other sports. Like you mentioned, I mean, playing basketball, there's no question that helped me big time with football.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no question that football helped me with basketball. I had no problem with playing tough and a lot of contact down low in the post in basketball. So I definitely think kids should be playing different sports all year round.
So the twin boys and your daughter, there'll be multiple sport participants.
Well, yeah, I mean, whatever they want to do. My daughter's she's taking some tennis lessons. The boys told me yesterday, oh no, we're playing football. But I told them exactly what I was saying. I'm like, no, you play every sport. I played soccer, I played baseball, I played all this when I was a kid.
So they just had this conversation,
Nice.
which I think is great. That is great. So, hey, we heard Noah Hartsock Senior Award down there in Vegas. Is that true? So the two of you, like, this should be the most dominant church basketball team ever. How's that? Like, do you guys go play together and play?
Yeah, well, okay. So last year, we haven't had a season yet this year, but we played last year. I had ACL repair.
Oh no.
The August before this August. So almost coming up on 2 years. So I didn't really play too much. I did go to a couple games when we had a season, because the year before that, before I had my surgery, it was a COVID year, so we didn't have form basketball at all.
Bad luck.
So we play. I played just last Thursday pickup with him. We have a group that goes over and plays.
Does he still got it?
Alders Quorum team. We haven't had a full season together, but
can Noah still bring it? Can he still shoot it and still play great?
Yeah. Oh, he can shoot. He dunked in the game the other day too.
Man.
So
In church
I
ball,
was guarding him, but
in church ball down in Vegas, if you're good, they'll post the odds up there at Caesar's Palace.
Yeah, they do.
Which ward's going to take what game on a certain night. Just a couple more questions with Jonny Harline, and we sure appreciate your time tonight. Before Blaine hits you up with 5 quick ones, what do you think of this transfer portal? We've been talking about it earlier in the show, and NIL. Is it good for the game? Is it just good for the players? What end game do you see here?
Man, I'm so torn on this one in several ways. I'm still trying to make up my mind if I'm leaning one way or the other. I think in a lot of ways it's like, yeah, why shouldn't players have the freedom to be able to go where they would like to go play? Why should they be so beholden to a school? But on the other hand, it's like, that's kind of part of the deal. When you engage into an agreement with any organization, you're giving up some of your freedoms. I mean, that's the nature of making an agreement. And I mean, it is kind of different. And I think fans can become a little off-put by so many changes in like free agency and pros, and then in college, of course, changing teams. I don't know. I don't know that it's great overall for the game. I'm old enough that, I remember Michael Jordan beating the Pistons, rather than saying, oh, let's create a new team and I'll join the Pistons.
Quit talking about LeBron like that. Why are you talking about LeBron?
Imagine that you would go on the arch rival team, and today it's like you'll be playing for one team, and then the next year it's like you're on the arch rival, and it's like it's just expected to be like no big deal. So in that sense, I don't know that it's great for the game. I think it's all right that the players have a little more freedom and maybe try to seek the best opportunities they can. I don't know that maybe it opens a window too much a little bit, that they kind of feel like the grass is always greener. And I think there's a lot of value in trying to rise up where you are. I think it could depend on the individual situation a lot though too. So
a lot of it's the
wishy-washy answer.
The impact. We haven't seen it yet. It might take 5 years down the road when we look back and go, remember that year where everything took a turn.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah,
because it's getting crazier every day, it seems like, and at some point it's going to blow up, and then they'll reel it back in a little bit, and then maybe it'll be okay. You
ready for 5 quick questions?
Let's do it.
These are just right from your heart. Like, you don't even have to think about them. Your favorite sports movie.
Favorite sports movie. Does The Last Dance count with Michael Jordan?
Yeah, well, it
was like a series.
It's a series.
That's a documentary.
I
don't know if that counts.
How many part? It's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. But let's stick to the movies,
yeah,
Johnny.
You have to go movie.
Okay, The Mighty Ducks.
Mighty Ducks.
That's the first in a year of a Mighty Duck reference.
I love that though. That's
I was a kid, so it's like you got to be. It's as a kid, it captures your heart a little bit more.
I love that show. You know what nobody else has said either, which is that same time frame as Little Giants.
Little Giants, Bad News Bears.
Yeah,
They're all right
there. Those are all great. So, okay. Now, this one's going to be interesting to me. Your favorite singer or band?
Not named.
Not named.
Your band.
It's got I have like several at the top of my rotation. I mean, Guns N' Roses probably there the longest.
Okay. I like that. We can go with that. That's Dave's genre. He likes old school
that's
rock
a great
and roll.
choice.
Yeah, he loves that. So I grew up in New York. Yeah. I'm a hip hop guy, so which is a little weird, but anyhow. Okay. This is very important. Favorite breakfast cereal?
Fruity Pebbles.
Fruity Pebbles.
Yes,
thank
goodness he didn't go with some healthy crap, because we like the good sugar cereals.
I think Pitta. What was Pitta saying?
Fruity Pebbles.
Dennis
Pitta was saying he eats a box at a time when he gets going in on cereal.
But who came on and told us that? Wasn't it Kyle and Marissa? Van Noy and Marissa only feed their kid like
protein shakes
and smoothies with granola in them for breakfast. I'm like, come on,
that's terrible.
So I got to talk to Marissa and stop that nonsense. So your favorite BYU moment? We're going to assume that the Beck to Harlene's still open is the favorite moment. So we're going to eliminate that one. So your second favorite moment, I guess we would call it, at BYU.
And it's football or non-football. You're just,
it could be anything.
BYU moment.
Okay, so not related to me. I mean, probably the next year, Austin catching the 4th and 19 and Harvey scoring the touchdown.
Yeah, that was awesome.
No. Oh, I love that one. Luke Staley scoring the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah, that was awesome. Those are great plays.
We still can't figure out the geometry of Staley getting that pitch.
Short side option.
And he goes 30 yards untouched. Like, where were the 11 Utes? They were nowhere near him.
Yeah, it's not the geometry, it's just the speed.
Yeah, just flat out speed. So, and then the last question is, your favorite game on BYU's Big 12 schedule. Is there a Big 12 team that you're most excited about BYU playing?
I don't know, maybe Texas, Oklahoma, some of those. Yeah.
Yeah. Texas. And they've got
Texas.
They have Oklahoma here next year and Texas on the road, which is going to be really cool. In their first season in the Big 12, they get them both, and they get Oklahoma at home. Has Oklahoma ever played in the Rocky Mountain West? I don't know if they have. Oh, I guess they would have played Colorado. I guess we can count Colorado, but
they haven't been to Provo.
Yeah, and BYU's played at Texas before, but that's a pretty cool environment with 100,000 plus. Yeah, those are good ones. I'd go with those two. So,
hey, where can we see the band Tiger Frog? Where can we find the music? Where can people go?
We're just currently releasing everything. It's on all streaming platforms. If you just search for Tiger Frog, there's 4 songs up right now. The first full album is going to have, I think, 12, and those will be coming out every few weeks for the next little bit. So,
do you think it means more to Tara to have a rock star husband or a former football player husband?
That's a tough one. I probably it probably means more that I could play guitar than that I used to play football. She loved watching the games back in the day. We were dating when I was playing, so it was a lot of fun.
So here, so I got to ask you one more because I just thought of this. Would you rather, right? So now you can go back and live life over again. Would you rather have been lead guitarist in a feature band that's world renowned and
like
has
Van Halen
like
or
Van
somebody?
Halen or somebody like that, or Guns N' Roses, or would you rather be a 10-time Pro Bowl tight end and Hall of Famer?
Guitar.
Really?
There you go. Yes.
Jonny Harline has spoken.
Awesome.
Rather be the lead guitarist.
You can do it
than a big
longer, easier on the body.
We were at we were down in when we were in Vegas for the WCC tournament. We went and saw Keith Urban, Blaine and I and our wives.
Oh,
and
my
we're
goodness.
sitting there just going, "I wish we were rock stars."
And here's the thing, John. I don't know if you've ever heard Keith Urban, because I'm not a big country guy, but that dude can absolutely shred on guitar. He is one of the best guitarists I have ever seen. He was phenomenal live. Yeah, much respect to Keith Urban for those abilities. So, well, man, thanks for being with us. Lots of the fans are listeners and friends are chiming in and saying, "Hey, thanks! Shout out to Jonny for a great interview and for hanging with us."
Right on. Thank you guys.
We're glad to have you.
Thank you, Jonny. Enjoy Vegas. Say hi to Noah and everybody, especially your gang, and we'll have you back on.
Will do. Sounds good, guys.
Thanks, Jonny. Great to be with you.
The great Jonny Harline.